Welcome. I'm Heather Bradley, the Director of the Center for Nonprofit Resources based in Toledo, Ohio. I'm excited to share the findings of a research project that we've conducted to better understand the nonprofit community in Northwest Ohio. On June the 26th, 2018, we convened a live session, a briefing session for interested community members, and this is a short digital recording of the information that we covered. So why did we conduct this research? We had done some very preliminary snooping around to look at Lucas County and then Wood County and decided that we wanted to take a deeper dive to understand the data, really to move from anecdotal research to data-driven discussions. Phase 1 is a very high-level examination where we take a look at about a 50,000-foot overview and we get an understanding of the nonprofit sector in Metro Toledo area. And we'll talk about what is comprised in that area. So what did we look at? We had for a number of years been looking at data published by taxexemptworld.com. We wanted to better understand what that data was based on. It's direct download of publicly available information from the Internal Revenue Service. So it's reliable data. We did download the data directly from the IRS, and quite frankly, we end up massaging the data manually to get to the outputs that we can get and secure from taxexemptworld.com. So we've used their data source. The data is effective March 23rd, 2018. The analysis is really in two parts. One, we took a look at all the 501c organizations, so all the tax-exempt organizations within this particular geographic area. And for this high-level overview, we looked at the number of organizations, the total assets, and the total combined liabilities. Then we take a deeper dive into the 501c3 or charitable organizations within this region. And as you can see, there's a number of different categories that we're going to look at the data for. So, Metro Toledo area, there are 4,884 tax-exempt organizations as of the effective date. In terms of combined assets, a total of $10.7 billion in assets reported, and a total of $8.1 billion in liabilities. When we take a look at the nonprofits or charitable organizations, or 501c3 classifications, of the 4,884, 68%, or 3,328, are registered 501c3s with the IRS. Here you see all the breakdown of all the different categories, and just another visual depiction, but it gives you an idea of all the other different types of categories. This could include everything from chambers of commerce to industry associations, etc. And what we're really focused on is this 68% that is comprised of the charitable organizations. When we take a look at the MSA, or the Metropolitan Statistical Area, we took a look at the region published by TMACOG locally here. And what we found when we mapped over the cities that are included in the Metro Toledo data set that we have, we see that it's really Lucas County, Wood County, and Fulton County. And of this particular MSA, Ottawa County is not included in this data. So what are the cities that are included in this analysis? So there are 43 cities altogether, and you can see them listed here. Further analysis indicated that 80% of all of the 501c3s are from 6 major metropolitan areas: Toledo, Bowling Green, Perrysburg, Sylvania, Maumee, and Holland. We then got curious about the ruling date. So ruling date is the date of the letter that is received by an applicant from the Internal Revenue Service, letting them know you are now officially deemed or considered by us a 501c3 charitable organization. It's also worth mentioning that the data that we're going to discuss under the ruling date segment does not reflect those organizations that started and are no longer in existence. So these are all the 501c3s in this area, the Metro Toledo area, that were in existence as of March 23rd, 2018. You'll also see down to the right that there's an NR, that's a no record. There are 17 of them in the data set identified as NR. So you notice the overall trending. One thing we'd like to point out is that 29% of the existing nonprofits today in the Metro Toledo area have been formed since January 1st, 2010. Further analysis showed that over half, or 51% of the existing nonprofits, have been formed or received their ruling letter as of January 1st, 2000 or later. So over half have been formed since the beginning of 2000. We did a little bit more drilling down into that period, and here is the overall breakdown of the ruling dates or formation of new nonprofits spread out over that the most recent 20-year period. And then the line that's created is the trending line of formation. It's also worth noting, although general discussion here says it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference in this, if there is an organization who for whatever reason has lost their status and then reforms, so for example, they didn't meet the 990 or tax filing requirements and the IRS took away their status, if they reapplied and were awarded the status again or reinstated, the date reflected would be the more recent date, the reinstatement date. But we need to dive into this further analysis, but in general we have a consensus here that there aren't that many that it would greatly change the analysis. We also took a look at classifications. Now, an organization can identify a classification 1, 2, and 3. This is a very high-level analysis of Class 1 only. Quite frankly, this is the set of data we least understand. There's going to need to be further analysis to really understand all the classifications, but roughly speaking on Class 1, you can see that charitable are 64%, religious 17%, educational 19%, and this is where it gets a little confusing, because as you start to do a deeper dive into the data, you see that some are Class 1 religion, Class 2 education, some are Class 1 education, Class 2 religion or religious. So further analysis is required to really understand the makeup of the classification in our area, but this is a view from the 50,000 foot level. We took a look at the revenue, and what we noticed here, well, first of all, if you're not aware, there's a requirement if you have 50,000 or more in revenue that you must file what's called a 990 or an income tax return for the nonprofit. You can see that 82% in this particular data set indicate there are organizations that either reported less than 50,000 or zero, or a negative number, or they did not report. So why would what could be in this number or causing it? Some people are not required to report, some organizations are not in compliance, and churches are not required. So further data analysis is required to understand what makes up that 82%, but here is the overall look at revenue for this group. In total, revenue for this whole group is $3.9 billion. We also took a look at contributions. The same breakdown, 50,000 or less, 88% of the data indicates that organizations are either 50,000 or less, zero, negative, or did not report. In total, the contributions are $674.9 million. We also want to take a look at nonprofits versus the population. Now, there could be a per capita, but what does that really mean if you got a 0.002 or whatever it worked out to? We found an analysis by a consultant who had flipped it and wanted to understand how many people are available per organization. So some may say 3,328 is a lot of support for our community. We wanted to take a look at how many people are available to be able to support each nonprofit. So the 6 that you see listed here on the screen are the 6, if you recall from the previous analysis when we looked at the cities, these 6 comprise 80% of all the nonprofit organizations in this area. And then we took a look at the most recent population we found available as of July 1st, 2017, the number of 501c3s, and then the number of people per organization. So we had the number, but we weren't really sure what that meant. So we went looking for a published analysis, and we took a look at Ohio. Now, if you're not aware, when you rank all the states highest to lowest in terms of number of nonprofits, Ohio ranks number 8 currently. So there's a lot of nonprofits. But what we see here is Ohio has roughly 327 people per organization, which you can see is a lot more than even the highest level on the charts on the right-hand side, any of these 6 from our region. And then we thought, well, maybe there's something different about the state of Ohio. So we compared Indiana, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And you can see that there doesn't appear to be anything significantly different about Ohio from our neighbors in the Midwest. We also came upon an analysis of the highest to lowest in terms of the states. So Vermont is the 50th ranked state in terms of people available per organization, and you can see that the number that they have currently, 160, is more than any of these large cities in our region. The only group that we could find that was less is the District of Columbia. And yes, we're aware that they're not a state. However, they have a very high concentration of nonprofits and associations, as I'm sure you're aware, due mainly to the desired proximity and influence with Congress and with lobbying. They have a lower number of people per organization than any of our groups. So we're somewhere between Vermont and the District of Columbia in terms of number of people available to support each organization. Where do we go from here? Well, we do want to continue our analysis into phase 2. The group who attended the live session is an important group because we asked them to submit, that we handed out index cards and asked them to write down any questions that they might have or things that they're curious about based on the results and findings from phase 1. And we invite you to do the same. If you'd like to submit any questions or things that you're curious about that you'd like us to explore in phase 2, I invite you to submit them to me at heather@C, the letter C, the number 4, N as in Nancy, P as in Peter, R as in Robert.org. heather@C4NPR.org. And we have some ideas, of course, of what we'd like to look at, but we wanted to be in conversation with the community, and we wanted to understand all of the curiosities and the questions before we decide exactly where we wanted to go. We also at some point need to develop a broader communications plan to help the community understand what we're finding. Thank you very much for your time. You will also find on this page a link to the PowerPoint presentation if you want to download that. And thank you very much for your time and interest. And as we learn more, stay tuned. We'll be publishing the results and the findings from phase 2. If you're not subscribed to our e-newsletter, which is available at no cost, and we promise not to flood your inbox, you can sign up at the top of our homepage at c4npr.org, and that's where we make all of our major announcements. So as some of the new material and the findings from phase 2 come online, you'll be in the know and be up on what the next steps are. So thank you for your interest, and we'll let you know when we learn more.